Welcome back from the break, everyone. Thank you for sticking with us through this episode of Independent Thought. So, Heather, one of the questions that I forgot to ask you in our first segment, I usually try to ask personal questions right from the top. Kind of skipped over it. My
No
apologies.
worries.
Uh, when it comes to politics in general, I feel as though a lot of people have different moments in their lives that more or less politically activate them. Was
Mhm.
there a moment for you specifically that led you to want to run for office? You mentioned before that January 6th was something that, made you want to run for office, but was there something additional to that that kind of politically activated you maybe earlier in life?
So I've always been into politics, kind of from the sidelines, and I thought about running several years ago, but I was like, no, this isn't for me. And but the more the with like the Trump administration, I just became, you know, I was raised Republican, and
Yeah.
I kind of just with everything the past 10 years or so, I just became less and less, became more independent, and more moderate, and just kind of started switch. Those lines became blurred, and started kind of doing my own research. And just as more and more things started happening, I just became more politically involved. The attack on the constant attack on women's rights, the attacks on health care, those were big things for me. But January 6th was the biggest deciding factor, I think, aside from several fights with my family, um, who are all Republicans. That was like a motivating factor for me to just get out there and do something. Um, my my family was they didn't see anything wrong with what happened on January 6th, and I was like, I can't, I no, I can't. Somebody has to do something. So I was kind of that's what kind of made me dive in.
Hey, that's fair. I mean, I think a lot of people had a lot of different reactions to that day.
Yeah,
I definitely had several reactions that day. I made a few episodes about them.
yeah,
So shameless plug. Well, it's not really shameless, it's my podcast.
yes, exactly. Make all the plugs you want.
But kind of transitioning a little bit back into the issues now. Now you are running for Congress, and there are several issues that are at hand here. I know that we spent the first half of the episode more or less specifically talking about healthcare, but you do have other pillars on your platform that I saw on your website. One of which was the environment. Now you had referenced that there is a coal ash plant within your district
Mhm.
in Georgia, and that it is actually polluting the groundwater, in your district. And so we have a direct case of fossil fuel job poisoning people, not somewhere down the road, but directly in the here and now. There have been lots of conversations about transitioning people away from these jobs into more green energy jobs. But my question for you is, how do you think that the government should help these people as they transition away from these jobs? And also, what can we do in the meantime to help people who are affected by pollution on these levels?
Well, I think helping people that are impacted by the pollution is, uh, oh my goodness, that takes the cleanup needs to be automatic. And I think those who are responsible for the pollution should be responsible for paying for the cleanup. I also think they should be responsible for any healthcare costs, and that should be ongoing. And I think it's going to need to be there's going to need to be oversight, some kind of governmental oversight to ensure that the healthcare coverage is there and that it's maintained, and that it's nobody tries to. This is just me being me, but I guess I get cynical. Nobody tries to, just make a settlement or anything like that. I mean, settlements can be fine if you want to give some kind of financial um, settlement, but there still should be ongoing health care coverage um, for anybody who is impacted by the pollution from the coal ash, especially the poisoning of the groundwater. They did do some cleanup several years ago, but part of their cleanup efforts were to buy all the land around it from everybody, and just basically nobody lives there anymore. And, you know, I haven't seen any direct proof that they've lined all the lakes and anything around there, but you know, I know that was something they were supposed to do. I've never heard that it got done, and it could have. It could have. There's reservoirs and everything around there. They were supposed to put it in, but to my knowledge, that was part of why they bought all the land up around there, was to avoid doing all of that. So, you know, but that's subjective. I don't know any of the objective information. I don't have any of that. Multiple sources have tried to find that. I don't know. But as far as transitioning the employees, I think that is, I mean, there's amazing opportunities out there, and these people already have such unique skills, and trade skills are something that you saw a real decline in, especially like in my generation. Well, after my generation, I guess. I refuse to call myself a millennial. I think I fit in that little bracket in between. But trade skills kind of went away, and I think they need to come back. You know, trade skills are such a valuable like skill set, and the people that have them, we need to just put those people in a bubble because some of those things you just can't teach. But it takes a special skill set to do a lot of those things. And I think we should take that skill set and extrapolate it and apply it to other skills or other trades within this industry. You know, with clean energy, there are so many new jobs that are going to be necessary for people to do. And if we train these people to do them, I mean, the training is going to be, it's going to take somebody who's intelligent, somebody who's willing to work, and somebody who's good with all these technical details that most trade labor takes. So again, we're going to need that special skill set. And I think if, you know, pay for the education, that's a no-brainer. And I think it's going to take paying for like probably some family subsidies while this education is going on, which we absolutely owe that to them. And then once we've got the new energy and clean energy jobs up and going,
yeah,
you know, we're good to go. But I mean, there's going to be so many things we can do with clean energy and with the job sectors. You know, the infrastructure there is humongous, and you know, we're only scratching the surface of it, and it's going to be an ongoing project. I mean, it's not going away. If anything, that's the current skill set is going to be going away, but we can extrapolate those skills, and I think it will be truly amazing.
Absolutely. And you know what, that just kind of like goes right into my next question, because I was going to ask you, we are now seeing well, we'll see where this is at once this episode comes out, but the reconciliation bill is being proposed right now. One of the things that's being proposed in there is free community college for people. But one of the questions that I was wondering, and that you also kind of just touched on, do you think that there should be funding as well for trade schools? And if so, how much?
I think trade schools should be free. If you're going to make community college free, make trade schools free. They're more or less the same thing. One just teaches a different avenue. You know, it teaches a trade rather than someone who's trying to taking basically like their core classes, or going for, you know, a 2-year degree, associate's degree of some kind. And I think there should be incentives to go to trade school. Like I said, we need those industries. We rely on them every day. And I don't think people realize how much we depend on them and rely on them until something happens. Look what happened in Texas over the winter. Prime thing, you know, all those jobs, everything we were depending on to get back up and going, all trade skills. You know, what's happening in Louisiana right now? Trade skills. It's highly skilled labor. And I mean, it takes someone with way beyond my intellect to do some of these things. And I'm fully willing to admit that. Like when it comes to, like, I don't touch anything regarding electricity. Like I can do a lot of construction work. Will get me near electricity stuff, I will electrocute myself. Well aware of that fact. But some people will just go and try it. But there's a lot of things we need people for.
Right.
That people don't want to do, but the people we have out there that can do them, we incentivize people to go do that. And because especially as we move more towards solar power and clean energy, and as technology just advances, everything's going wireless and everything, and that's just something else that's way over my head. I hate IT, and I work in IT all the time, and it drives me crazy, but it's going to take people who have those trade skills. We're going to be more dependent on them in the future than we are now, and we're already very dependent on them. So, incentivize the hell out of it.
Yeah. And, one of the things that's alongside of that proposal within the reconciliation bill is the idea for paid leave. Now,
yes.
Are you in the camp where you think that paid, like family medical leave, things of that nature, do they need to exist? And if so, like, is there, like, what is the limits? Like what should we be realistically thinking about?
I absolutely agree with paid leave. Most countries do it, and they see amazing results with their staff. They see it with their productivity, their efficiency, the overall mental health of their workers. There's a lot of research and science behind it, like organizational science, that proves that it is for the overall well-being of your organization. It really is effective. I firmly believe that companies need to enforce paid leave. And I think, a lot of them don't even offer maternity leave anymore, which is just crazy to me. But I think, paternity leave, that should absolutely be a thing. Dads, there are new dads out there along with new moms, but along with that, miscarriage leave. Miscarriage is a horrible toll on a person. So in the having to come right back to work after that happens, it does nothing good for anybody. We'll just leave that there. I think there needs to be, so many days of a year that somebody gets paid for a mental health break. Stress is a big thing. Stress will kill you faster than anything. It will mess up your health faster than anything. Everyone should be able to take a mental health break, whether they take just one day a quarter, one day a month, however you want to do it, but absolutely. And then there's also, bereavement leave has always driven me bonkers, because if it's a mother or a father or a sister, you get like a week. But if it's your grandfather, you get a day or two. But what if that grandfather raised you?
Right.
What if, and so there's different, someone can't tell you, they look at bereavement objectively, and bereavement should absolutely be subjective. And that's always really bothered me. So I don't think anybody should be telling me how long I need off for someone who was close to me that passed away. So I think there should be a space of time set aside for bereavement, just period, bereavement. If it's a family member, this is, so I think that various different things should entitle paid leave, like moving. Moving is a pain in the butt, and it's stressful, and that will probably never happen, but I'm just using it as an example because I just moved, and I had to take a few days off, and it was awful, and it's so I absolutely believe in paid leave, and I think there should be a lot more paid leave for maternity. Here we do, most places you'll get like up to 12 weeks. Some countries give you a year, and then they'll do so many months, and then you get like part-time for a little while. Like they really emphasize the mother. And I really like their workers are happier. So there's something to be said about it. There's a lot of research and science behind it. It's very compelling evidence.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think what it really comes down to is that people who are experiencing stress, strain, issues with their mental health, we should be giving people the time to just collect themselves, because it just allows for overall just better production in every way, shape, and form. I think that we are too used to treating people like robots, and there's just not really common sense at the end of the day to treat people that way. So I appreciate your stance on this. But speaking of things that don't have a whole lot of common sense around them, I wanted to talk to you about things that happened in Georgia earlier this year in regards to there was a shooting that took place. I think it was back in the middle of March in Georgia. Now, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong here, but that this mass shooting that took place originated in your district. And, people again are asking all the same questions that we feel like we're always asking around these things happening. One of them being, why don't we have federal background checks? Will you go into Congress and make sure that federal background checks become a reality?
Yeah, so that is a thing for me. As someone who's worked in mental health for a long time, I firmly believe that federal background checks should be enforced. I support the right to bear arms. If you want to own a gun, I mean, I don't, but I'm a knife person, but that's just me. I go fishing a lot, and it's always handy just to have a knife, just cut the line and stuff like that. So it's just whatever. I'm not going to shoot the fish, but I have seen people do that though. It's Georgia, but it's yeah. So federal background checks, I think, would be a necessary first step. But to make that a successful first step, you need to have a background check system that's federal, that everyone has access to. That if they sell a gun, they can access that system. But that also includes, like, if there's red flags. So like for mental health, if you've got somebody that maybe has in the past year has been suicidal or homicidal, and has been on, at least in Georgia, we call it a 1013. It's involuntary psychiatric admission for a 72-hour hold. If they've been on that 72-hour admission for psych hold, it will show up. Instead of just Georgia seeing it, it should show up in a nationwide database. Instead, you've got a state-to-state database, and that's, like the Indiana FedEx shooting. That's what happened. It was in a different state, and they didn't see it. So this is where also same thing goes for like cooling off periods. If someone comes in, wants to buy a gun, and they're red flag, and the guy's just like, I come in, want to buy a gun from you, and you're just like, no, you just get this weird feeling, and that's perfectly fine. Which another thing that should be, okay, if you're not safe, if you're getting a bad feeling, you should be totally free to deny me a sale, and that's not okay in some states. Which is, again, beyond me. But but you should be able to go into a database and say, Heather tried to come in and buy a gun. I had an uneasy feeling, can't explain it, but I put a red flag in. But that should be able to be seen in California if I try to go to California and buy a gun 2 days from now. But I'm still in that red flag period, so I can't. But California can see it, So I think all the registries, all the databases, they all need to talk to one another. I mean, as many things as we have that are federal, they have a federal prescription system that tells them anytime I try to buy Sudafed, but they can't they can't put a gun system on a federal basis. Like I don't understand. So, and they even scanned my driver's license when I tried to buy the Sudafed. So literally that's more in depth than when someone tries to buy a gun. So that's a basic first step, I think, is background checks. Needs to be a federal database, just nationwide. Same with red flags and any kind of like psychiatric hold, anything like that, that would be a pertinent red flag. It should all be any kind of police records. Anything that would be a flag should be in a nationwide database.
Absolutely. And, I kind of want to close out this episode by going on to the same place where we started at. So we started with healthcare. And so I kind of, again, want to end with a healthcare related question. As I was saying to the listeners before, we're recording this a little bit ahead of time. This is coming out in November, but we are in the midst of seeing what are being characterized as heartbeat bills being passed around the nation. What do you think Congress can and should do in regards to seeing so many of these laws being passed on the state level? Should Congress step in and make a law specifically that would essentially overturn all of these laws at the state level? Do you believe that the federal government should go that far? What are your thoughts on these bills that we're seeing across the country, especially the one down in Texas?
So I know at least far back as I think 1992 or 1993, and I forgot which congressman, but he swore up and down that they were going to bring it before Congress and they were going to codify Roe v. Wade into law. And they have said that, I think, every single year since. So this is going on like 30 years? Has yet to happen. Because we deal with these attacks on Roe v. Wade every year, but this is the first time, because of what happened in Texas and the Supreme Court just basically laying down and letting it happen, that we're seeing Roe v. Wade fall. This is the first, domino to taking down Roe v. Wade. There is a bill that Judy Chu has brought. She's been doing it since like 2010, 2011, to, again, codify Roe v. Wade. And Nancy Pelosi is going to bring it to the House floor. It's long overdue. I don't know how much power it will have, because there are, you'll still have states. Some things states still have the power over federal, even though federal should always trump states. It just depends on which law is stronger. We used to run into that with mental health care stuff. Personally, I think it's going to end up right back in front of the Supreme Court. It's just a matter of time. What Texas is doing, I think, is ultimately going to fall, because they're giving the right to basically the right of the government. They're putting it in the hands of a private entity.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, which there's already been a Supreme Court decision that says you can't do that. There's been multiple. And then on top of that, they're going to, with all this frivolous litigation, they're just going to fill up their courts. So the court system's already overrun. This is just going to make it worse. So I'm not sure what's going to happen there. And then Greg Abbott really stepped in it when he, with AOC, with all of the stuff that he's been saying, and this, I don't mean this to sound like it's going to sound, at 6 weeks, the fetus is not a fetus, it's an embryo. And it does not have a heart. So I don't mean it to sound like that, as cruel as that sounds and as awful as that sounds, but it is still an embryo. It is not a fetus at that point, just scientifically speaking, or biologically speaking. And what people say is the heartbeat is not actually a heartbeat. It is more or less electrical impulses bouncing off one another that the sonogram actually picks up. If you were to hold a microphone to the belly, or even if you were to cut it open and hold a microphone in there, the sound would not be picked up. It is simply the electrical impulses playing off the sonogram machine. So it is, there is no heartbeat at 6 weeks. There's not even a heart. So, so what, scientifically speaking, biologically speaking, what he is trying to propose doesn't work, but apparently he didn't take anatomy. So I guess he probably should have done that before he tried to sign this bill. And then technically, I mean, a woman doesn't know, you can't even get an accurate pregnancy test until, you know, they won't even do it if you're only 2 weeks past your 2 weeks late for your period.
Right.
They'll just tell you it's stress, or it could be stress, or blah, blah, blah. It could be anything.
Right.
So they usually wait until you're at least 4 weeks past your period. Well, then by that time, you're already going to miss the 6 week mark.
Yeah.
So it doesn't work. So, and then he said he can just, it's fine. He'll just prevent, he's going to stop rapes from happening. If you have the power to stop rapes and incest from happening,
why aren't you already doing it?
What exactly? So, you know, I invite any woman in Texas that has been the victim of rape or incest since his term started to go after him. I would sue him because he had the power to stop it and he did not. He just opened himself wide up for that. And, you know, you can't make this stuff up. But I think what Texas did is going to be, I think it will be struck down, but in the interim, we are going to see a lot of women and girls hurt in the process, because it won't stop abortions at all.
Yeah.
It's going to stop safe abortions. And that's very scary. You know, and it doesn't matter. It's not a matter of being pro-abortion. It's being pro women's rights and pro woman's life. You know, a lot of women, a botched abortion can kill women. But it also is taking their life to force them to have a child that they're not prepared for, that they don't want, that they're not financially able to have. I mean, there's a lot of things.
Absolutely. And I thank you for giving that explanation. I also apparently did not take enough of an anatomy class, because I did not know that fact about the heartbeat at 6 weeks. So thank you for taking a moment to explain that. And
well, most people wouldn't know that, but if you're going to write the bill and do all that kind of stuff, you should at least know that stuff.
That's very true. And I thank you for coming on and, you know, talking to us about your platform and giving us all this information about different issues going on, especially in the state of Georgia. Where can people find you online if they want to get more involved with you and with your campaign?
So my website is heatherforgeorgia.com, and it's for like FOR, because I keep getting asked that. And Georgia is spelled out. So heatherforgeorgia.com. And then if you want to find me I'm on pretty much all the social medias now. And my main one is Twitter. It's at HeatherK_GA. And that applies to Instagram as well. And then Facebook is at HeatherKGA, no underscore.
Perfect. And for anyone who's interested, just go ahead and go into the episode description. Those links will be in the episode description right now. So go ahead and check those out. And Heather, I guess lastly, before we let you go, when is the primary election, and are there other people in the primary with you?
Yes. So the primary is going to be in June of next year. We do not have a date yet because they keep moving things. And, you know, here in Georgia, they keep messing with all the voting laws. So who knows what they're going to do. And we're still waiting on redistricting to finalize. So who knows what's going to happen with that. I do have one primary opponent. The second one has already dropped out. So that's is what it is. He has joined the other guy's campaign, but I am the only woman running as a Democrat.
Okay. Well, everyone, you know, please go ahead and check out her website. And, you know, if you are interested, please, you know, donate. Please check out her Twitter, Instagram. thank you so much for coming onto the podcast today. I really do appreciate it.